Slick bass production. From the mind of a misfit, quiet like my daddy, but straightforward like my mama. Drank like granddad, smoked sluggies like the other, but granddad feels the guts. Hustler like my uncle JT, a cousin Big B. I got big dreams like Jimmy Lee, and my aim to fill it by daily beans. Keep a job like Uncle Kevin told me, top notch player like David. And that caddy thing since the 80s, laughing, corporate thug and political like Jack. May he rest in peace, but I've been taught a lot. See, this hot head wasn't scared to get money nor leave the beat to see. Can't play me like I'm a pawn in the game. Chess, jokester like Big Kenny, the ski. G like Terrell, Journey. Trigger happy, it's about my family, alone like my granny. Lula, chuckling, giggling, hunching my shoulders like my daddy's and the lead. Routed like them Tyson seeds, the spiritual like rewards. A go-getter like Arian, a religious, romantic H.E.A.R like no one, ever. Oh, so like Uno, my soldiers, untold story like my bro, T-Bird. And cousin Ray Knight could get aim like Irvin, freak nasty like John and Gene. I can be man, it's respectful, tap into a different breed. I can't wait till they get a load of me. Draped in luxury, memory and lessons from ancestral pillars, legacy family. We are unapologetic. Came with a red mentality. We are unapologetic. Came with a red mentality. I can't wait. I can't wait. Can't wait to get load of me. I can't wait. I can't wait to get load of me. I can't wait. I can't wait to get load of me.
Hey, Miss Minnie, how you doing? Hey, Miss Collins, how you doing? Right. Apologize for the delay. Hey, champions, welcome to tonight's edition of the Motivation to Elevation Facebook Live podcast. It is yours truly, Arian Tyson. I do apologize for the delay. For some reason, the device that I normally use decided it needs some Act-Right or something. And so literally, I normally go live on this particular phone. But if you can tell, it's still saying, for some reason, I'm connected to my Wi-Fi, and it's still saying, can't start live video. Please check your internet connection and try again. I have no idea why it's doing that, and it's still trying to connect. So I had to improvise and actually use my main device. So nevertheless, when you get thrown lemons, you make lemonade. So this is what we do. Having said all that, I want to talk to you tonight, and I hope that you've had a terrific Tuesday. I trust that everything is going well. And so I wanted to talk from this particular topic because this topic is really, really important to me, and I trust that it is of value to you. And I want to let you know that the world is waiting to hear from you. The world is waiting to hear from you. And if you're not aware of what's been going on here in St. Louis, it has been a lot of chaos and a lot of turmoil since this past Friday, where there was a decision made that was announced publicly where a ex-cop basically got away with murder, so to speak. And the community is outraged. And rightfully so. Because the evidence was overwhelmingly against the ex-cop. And this judge let him off, so to speak. And so what I decided was, I decided to kind of step back and just observe what is going on in my city and talk about it from this standpoint. It's time out from remaining silent on things, on certain issues, on certain topics, and it's time to speak on them. because one of the things that I've learned over my life is that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I'm going to say it again. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so with that, I decided to first go to the good book. And so when I think of the fact that for this region, for the St. Louis region, what happened Friday seems to be deja vu in the aftermath of what happened with the police officer who was never indicted for the murder of Michael Brown. And so I went to one of my go-to chapters, which is Psalm 61. And I remember how I said, "Hear my cry, O God, and tend unto my prayer. From the ends of the earth will I cry unto thee. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I, for thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower against the enemy." What I've learned is that some listen, but they don't hear. Some touch, but they do not feel. Some look, but they do not see. Some talk, but they're not saying anything. And some are alive, but they do not live. And one of the things that I've gotten sick and tired of, I've gotten tired of gun violence here in St. Louis. And for me, STL, it's my hometown, but in the climate that we're in now, to me, STL stands for Stop Taking Lives. And what I'm talking about is the lives being taken from people who are, unarmed. It's amazing. I was reading an article, because there's been a lot of stuff going on here. And I was reading an article where this weekend there was a gentleman of Caucasian descent, and he was in a high-speed chase. The cops were chasing him. And what got me about the story was this. He actually shot at the police. The police caught him, and they took him into custody. Now, I don't know about you, but we've heard numerous incidences or numerous stories of unarmed people of African descent being gunned down. But yet you have another individual who actually shoots at the police, and he's still breathing to this day. Something is wrong with that. That does not add up to me. And so I'm tired of this, this unarmed black men and women getting gunned down. I'm tired of black lives being taken over nothing. I'm tired of parents having to bury their children. We're in a day and age where parents are actually outliving children. And that's sad to me, because it has not always been like that. And then not only that, I'm tired of people listening, but they're not hearing. And here's why I mention this, because God gave us all mouths that close. However, our ears don't close. So that must tell us something. And what it says to me is this, that the world is waiting to hear from you. You cannot continue to turn a blind eye to the stuff that's going on that you know is wrong. Because believe it or not, you will be held accountable for it. So think about this. I want to leave with you. I want to give you 4 things to think about. Why the world is waiting to hear from you, and what you can understand and what you can get from this. One of the things that you need to do is that when you decide to stand up for what you believe, you have to hold firm to your convictions. You have to have the courage of your convictions. And what I mean by that is there are going to be times where what you believe is going to be challenged. But when you know who you are and when you know whose you are, you will have the ability to stand firm on your convictions and have the courage of your convictions in order for you to move forward, in order for you to be a blessing to someone else, in order for you to speak life into someone who is on the verge of giving up, who is on the verge of a mental, emotional, physical, and psychological breakdown. That's what you learn how to do. Because one thing that I've learned through my life is that oftentimes our greatest breakthrough comes after our greatest breakdown. I'm going to say it again. Our greatest breakthrough comes after our greatest breakdown. Because when you have been broken down, when you feel like your back is against the wall, when you feel like you're at the end of the rope and you begin to rise up, you have an energy about you that is infectious. You have a swagger about you that is undeniable because you know what you're talking about. Why? Because you lived it. You've lived it. See, no one can convince me, or no one has to convince me that there is life after the pain. Why? Because I've lived it. I've lived it. I've been through it. And I have the scars to prove it. No one has to convince me of that. So whatever you have gone through, whatever you're going through right now, that you haven't talked about publicly, know this: when you come through it and you make the decision that you're not going to stop in the middle of it, or you're not going to tuck tail and run when it gets tough, but you're actually going to go through it, what will happen is you will be able to help somebody who's going into a storm of their own and let them know that the storm is not going to last always. You're going to be able to tell them that, and they won't look at you like you're preaching to them, so to speak, but they will look at you like you're teaching to them. Why? Because you've been through it. You can attest to it. It is part of your testimony. It is part of your journey. It is part of your story. And I don't care how many times I have to say it until it resonates. There is power in our stories. And nobody can tell our stories better than us. So no matter what you've gone through, no matter who has left you, no matter who has hurt you, no matter who has abandoned you, everything that you go through in life, there is one constant in your life involving everything that you go through, and that's the person you look at in the mirror. And that's something that you have to remember. That's something you have to remember. And another thing, in order for you to understand that the world is waiting to hear from you, in the process of going through this, you have to eliminate toxic people. You have to. What do I mean by that? You have to stay away from bad associations. You have to. It is imperative that you stay away from people and things and environments that mean you no good, that do more harm than they do good. Because the fact is, people, whether they admit it or not, whether they do it intentionally or not, they have a tendency to put us in a box. And when you decide to step out of the box, and when you decide to step out of the cage and spread your wings and elevate, what will happen is people start looking at you funny. People think you done switched up. People think that you're not for them anymore. No, what you're not for is foolishness. What you're not for is mediocrity. What you're not for is average. Because you know that you're destined to be great. So why would you accept average? Why would you accept the status quo when everybody around you is accepting the status quo? And one of my mentors taught me that if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to get in another room, quick, fast, and in a hurry, because everyone around you should be teaching you something, whether it's good, whether it's bad, etc. They need to be teaching you something. There should be a lesson in everything that you go through, no matter how good it is, no matter how unfair it is, no matter how indifferent it is. And the thing about it is, when it all boils down to it, we have to realize this, and that is fair is where they have pigs at. Life is not fair. Life is not fair. And that's something I had to learn the hard way. Hey, Zancherie. And the thing about it is, when it boils down to it, you have to make the decision on whether or not it is going to cause you to stumble, whether it's going to derail you, or whether it's going to define you. What you go through in life, it can either derail you or it can define you. If you're going to let it define you, which I highly recommend, make sure it's defining you in the right manner. Because you don't want to be looked at as somebody who gave up or ran at the first sign of trouble. You don't want to be someone who specializes in running. And one thing I tell people about those who run and like to avoid adversity and all this other stuff, even Forrest Gump got tired of running. Think about that. Even Forrest Gump got tired of running. So that's something I want you to think about, something I want you to realize and understand. You can't keep running. Which brings me to the next point. After you realize that you have to hold firm to your convictions, after you realize that you have to eliminate toxic people, the next thing that you have to do is realize that you have to become allergic to average, because average is not an option. It is no longer an option for you. Why is that? Because you were not designed to be average. You were designed to at least be great. You was designed to be unstoppable. You were designed to be phenomenal. Period. And if you're not operating on that level, you're kidding yourself. You're shortchanging yourself. That's something that you have to realize. And one of the things about being great and operating in greatness is that this is my definition of greatness. Everybody should have their own definition of greatness. But as I have lived my life, and as I look back over my life in this season that I'm in, here's what I've come to realize about greatness. Greatness is the ability to authentically walk in your truth, regardless of circumstances. Recognizing and realizing that setbacks are inevitable, yet understanding that the price of greatness is responsibility. That's my definition. That's my personal definition of greatness. You may have your own definition of greatness, and that's fine. And if you don't have your own definition of greatness, or if you don't know a definition of greatness, you need to find one, or you need to develop one very soon. Very soon. Because that may be one of the reasons that you're still at the level that you are. And I'm just being honest with you, because when you go through something, it should elevate you, because you have gathered information and knowledge that you didn't have before. You have learned lessons that you didn't know at the time. And so if you don't learn the lesson and you don't pay attention to the signs, then history is going to be bound to repeat itself. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just giving it to you real. And think about this. Great people change the world, realizing that they must change themselves. Nobody stays the same. Nobody should stay the same. If your mindset, for example, I'll be 35 in a couple months, even though I still have a baby face. My mindset should not be the same mindset I had when I was 25 years old. And if that's true, if my mindset at nearly 35 mimics or is the exact same mindset I had at 25, what have I done for the last 10 years of my life? What have I done? Probably little to nothing. Because I can tell you, my life has changed dramatically from the time I was 25 to now. I probably wouldn't even recognize who I am now. I probably would not recognize who that 25-year-old Arian was. Hey, Tanetta. And the thing about it is this. Everything teaches you something. It's supposed to teach you something. It's not meant to harm you. But it's meant to help you. It's meant to elevate you. It's meant to remind you that your life has purpose and you have to make it count for something. So remember, great people recognize that great people can change the world. Great people change the world recognizing that they have to change themselves. Here's the flip side. Average people let the world change them while believing they'll never change. Some things never change. I get all that. People shouldn't be one of them, and you shouldn't be one of them either. And then finally, after you have held firm to your convictions, after you have eliminated the toxic people and gotten rid of the toxic relationships in your life, after you realize that you must become allergic to average because being average is no longer an option for you, you have to rise above your circumstances. You got to rise above them. So what do I mean by that? Great people rise above their circumstances. Average people fall as a result of their failures. And if I can give you more backup, I'll even go to the good book. Acts 24, I think it's Acts 24:15. It says something to the effect of, and I have hope towards God, which hope these men also look forward to, that there is going to be both a resurrection of both the righteous and the unrighteous. What am I saying? Pay it forward. Pay it forward. And think about this. The heart that you have it for a reason. No matter what happened, no matter what has happened to me, I'm not going to let my circumstances take away the fact that I know I have a good heart. I'm not going to let what has been done to me. I'm not going to let who has betrayed me. I'm not going to let who has walked out on me. I'm not going to let who has abandoned me. I'm not going to let who has tucked tail and ran, thrown slander on my name, etc. I'm not going to let them damage my heart to the point where I become bitter. I'm going to allow it to make me become better. And that's what you have to do. You got to be able to rise above your circumstances. Circumstances are not meant to destroy you. They're meant to teach you. They're meant to teach you. And the thing about it is this. It's time for you to get your dreams out. It's time for you to stop making excuses. It's time for you to stop waiting on the perfect time. Because as one of my mentors tells us all the time, the world is waiting on you. The world is waiting to hear from you. And I'm thankful that someone helped me discover that my voice matters. That I have a voice in this world and I have a right to be heard. You know, I'm thankful for people like Dr. Reuben West. I'm thankful for my mentor, Les Brown. One of my mentors, Les Brown. And the thing about it is, I went through a period of life where life was not spoken into me. I went through a period where I felt worth less. But as I have learned valuable lessons, I realized that I've become worthy. Worthy to the point of being able to be a blessing to others by the grace of God. Not on my own strength, but because there has been a gift that has been embedded in me since I was in my mother's womb. And I have the ability to articulate myself and be able to speak life into others. Not bad for somebody that grew up very introverted. Not bad for somebody who was diagnosed with lead poisoning at an early age. Not bad for someone who was told that he may end up mentally retarded. That's my truth. And I'm not saying it in a bragging manner. That is a fact. And I can recall the things that were said to me by those doctors. I can recall the things that were said to me by so-called friends. I can recall the things that were said to me by certain teachers who was teaching me nonsense. And I'm using it to motivate me. I'm using it to fuel me and push me to greatness. All of us have had our fair share of pain. The question is, are you going to allow your pain to push you to greatness? Because you have greatness in you. You have it in you. And the fact is, you have an opportunity to make an impact. You have the opportunity to make sure that the world knows who you are. And prime example, it looks like one of the members of one of my all-time favorite groups is watching. So I got to shout out Rodney Benford of the group Troop. He's watching. Thanks. Appreciate you, bro. And the thing about it is this. At the end of our feelings is nothing. But behind every principle that you live by is a promise. So with that understanding, you have to realize you have to step out there. Let your voice be heard. You've seen all of these people, their dreams are becoming a reality. Why is your dream not becoming a reality? No matter what it is. When you make a decision that you're not going to stay where you are, that you're not going to accept just being where you are, that this is not the end all be all, you will start to attract people and the right people to you. And they will be able to push you and encourage you. And not only that, they'll be able to challenge you. You got more in you, kid. You got more in you. You got more in you, ma'am. You got more in you, sir. I'm telling you what I know because that's what happened to me. That's what's happening to me. I have people keeping me accountable. When I had that delay, I had somebody reach out to me. You still doing a podcast? Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming. I just had a technical glitch. With all this technology still want to act up. It is what it is. But nevertheless, you got to have people that's going to hold you accountable. So to recap, how do you know that the world is waiting to hear from you? Realize this. It's time for you to make a decision to hold firm to your convictions. Not only that, after you do that, you have to eliminate toxic people. Eliminate those toxic people from your life. Eliminate those toxic relationships. And then when you realize that you live by a standard and you set the standard, you realize that you must become allergic to average because being average is no longer an option. And then finally, regardless of what you've gone through in life, you learn the posture and you learn how to rise above your circumstances. That's how you get the world. That's how you allow the world to hear from you. H.E.A.R. Hold firm to your convictions, eliminate toxic people, become allergic to average, and rise above your circumstances. That's what you do. And once you do that, then you're able to be a help and reach out to someone else. Pay it forward and be able to be a blessing to them and let them know that you don't have to stay where you are right now. And on the other side of whatever pain you're dealing with, whatever pain you've gone through, is a reward. And people, those go-getters that you know, those champions that you're watching silently, they're going for it. Because they realize that behind our feelings is nothing, but behind every principle is a promise. So I trust that you got value from this topic today. And again, I apologize for the delay. Phone still acting janky. It's still saying can't start live video. I don't know why, because I'm on my Wi-Fi. So it's not like the phone is not connected, but it is what it is. So I went back to all reliable. So if you got value from it, let me know in the comments section. Feel free to share this podcast on your Facebook walls, etc. As always, remember in life you have two choices. You can make moves or you can make excuses, but you most certainly cannot do both. And as always, if you have not done so, be sure to check out my website at www.motivationtoelevation.com. Again, that's www.motivation2elevation.com. Again, it's yours truly, Arian Tyson, the Moving Motivator. Thank you so much for tuning in. Holla if you hear me. Peace.